second. I'll be right back if you guys are watching. Welcome to the Square and Compass live stream, another Square and Compass live stream. Leave a like, leave a comment, join the chat, subscribe, all that good stuff. Here to chat about Freemasonry and anything anybody wants to talk about. So I will wait for some people to join and then we'll talk. I've been enjoying these. I know I start them during the day when a lot of people are working, but I figure I can do the whole day. See who wants to join. I got my coffee. I got my snacks. I got my pop. So I'm all set to go. Let me know what is happening when it comes to Freemasonry. Any questions you have. All that good stuff. I had a great time last night. I went to a Dog Star concert, which was a lot of fun. Starring, I did not know this, but Keanu Reeves is the bass player, which I did not know. They were at Caesars Windsor, so that was a lot of fun. Went to Coffee Club this morning. That was a lot of fun as well. So we'll just wait and see who can show up. Thank you for whoever put in the like, but let's leave some stuff in the chat. Let me know how you're doing. And thank you for the likes. Oh, Michael Aaron Moore mentioned me in a post. Let's see what's going on with him. Thank you, Michael Aaron Moore, for sharing the fact that I'm back on talking more about Freemasonry. Much appreciated. I'm going to share that. Give people a few minutes to see if they want to join. It looks like we got some other people watching us. Thank you so much. Let me know. Throw in the chat what you want to talk about. It doesn't just have to be about Freemasonry, but that's kind of the most fun thing I think to talk about. But it can be about anything that we kind of want to talk about. Send it to a few people who are active. You want to click on for a couple minutes? That would be awesome. I got my cat here, Bandit. I don't know if you can see her. Maybe I'll show her to the cameras at some point so other people can see her and talk to her. I do believe my Pops is going to be joining soon, which would be great. If he's on there. Thank you, Michael Moore. I saw that. I shared it. I appreciate it. I also shared the Global Masonic Chat both on my personal page and my Facebook, and we got some interest. So I really do appreciate that. That was much appreciated. How was the global Zoom chat yesterday? Let me know how it went. There's a few of these virtual things happening now, which I think is great. I think the more involved we can be in that stuff, the better in terms of the online space. As I just mix one coffee with another coffee here. Because I need that caffeine. I went to coffee club this morning at the Windsor Masonic Temple and really appreciated it. As always, I love the coffee club. Good afternoon, brother. Hey, Romania. That is awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I've done a couple of podcasts with some brothers from Romania, if I recall correctly. Let me know how you're doing. If you're Mason, if you want, you can put down which lodge you're from. I think that'd be awesome. But let me know what's going on. Really, really cool to have somebody all the way from Romania join us. I really appreciate that. Are you yourself a Mason or interested? I'd love to learn more about Freemasonry in I'd love to learn more about Freemasonry in Romania because honestly, I know very little about it. So I'd love to learn more. So Bucharest Red, if you can, I'd love to have you chat with us and tell us about Freemasonry in Romania. Nicholas Romita, I think he's watching. He's saying he can only chat through Facebook. So by all means, leave some chats with me on Facebook. That'd be awesome. Or see if you can use the chat. We got a few people watching, which is wonderful. So by all means, let me know what's going on and what you want to talk about. Doesn't just have to be about Freemasonry, but obviously that's kind of the goal of a lot of these podcasts is we talk about Freemasonry. So let me know what's going on. IASTAABBA. I don't know what that means. Trying to think if that's, I feel like, hold on a second. Excuse me. IAST. We got some more. I am so. Oh, I think so. My ritual is a little bit different than yours. I am a member of the Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario. Which I'm not sure. I'm also not York, or I'm 18th degree Scottish, right? Not York, right? We do. I am so. So I'm wondering if that's part of your ritual. Our ritual is English ritual, tends to be under the Grand. Well, it's under the Grand Lodge of Canada, province of Ontario. Hi to Michelle. Hi to Michael from my Thursday Global Masonic group chat. Yes, thank you, Michael, by the way, for letting us for being on here and letting us promoting this, which is awesome to have a brother from Romania. Let me know. I oh hmm, that's really interesting. So I'm wondering actually if that might be um, in the Tyler's even oath. It's been so long since I've read the Tyler's oath or recited it. Normally, when I go and visit a lodge where I'm not a member and they don't know me, if I am proving, I tend to prove with the signs or with the with the signs with the dues cards, all that good stuff. I am so taken and accepted by brethren. That's cool though. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna check my constitution. I should probably read the Tyler's oath again because I feel like that might be in there. Thank you for sharing that though. This is just so you know, though, an open forum. We have a lot of times non-Masons join who have questions about Freemasonry and want to know more about it. If I were a detective, I would say this guy's a Mason. Sofas, Sofas. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Thank you so much for joining us as well. This is just a general chat, talk about Freemasonry, talk about anything we want, keeping in mind, though, this is an open forum. So we don't want to share ritual or anything like that. Just hanging out and talking about Freemasonry in general. So anything you guys want to talk about, it could be what's happening in your lodge, events that you've got planned. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about Masonic membership retention and ways that we can increase retention. Or a couple of days ago, we talked about our favorite Masonic books. So I talked about The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown, as well as a lot of books by John Bizak, who's an amazing writer. Yeah, for this, I mean, because it's related to, thank you for sharing. It's related to the podcast I run, right? And the podcast is open to everybody. So we don't share ritual or anything to that extent. But what we do share is just general conversations about what's happening in lodge, anything that's available to the public. So if you've got an event happening, especially one that is open to the public, to families, to friends, for example, in Ontario, or not in Ontario, excuse me, in the States coming up, there's events happening in, oh my gosh. I'm just going to check my Facebook right now to share them. We now start at 3 p.m. on Thursdays. Why do you call us profane when many of us understand more of the wisdom and mysteries than Masons? See, I don't use the term profane myself, and I don't know how. I mean, I've used it in the past, but as a rule, I just say Mason and non-Mason, if that makes any sense at all. Because, there are non-Masons, quote unquote non-Masons, who know a lot about Freemasonry and a lot about, especially the history of the craft. And I've actually interviewed a lot of them on my podcast in the past. Historians, architects who design Masonic buildings or know about Masonic design history, as well as historians. We actually had an Egyptologist on who knew a lot about ancient Egypt and stonemasonry of that time. So, I mean, I personally don't use the term profane. There is obviously a difference between Masons and non-Masons in the sense that we don't want to share ritual with non-Masons. The reason for that, I'll give you my view on that, but anybody can put in the chat. Sofas, again, forgive me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, Sofas. The reason that I think it's important to maintain the secrets, and Michael Bucharest, you can add your 2 cents, is me, for example, right? On my dad's side, I didn't know my grandfather. He passed away before I was born. And as a result of that, but he was a Mason. And by me joining and knowing the ritual and practicing it, I feel as though I'm closer to him, and I got to know him in that way. In the same way, if I were to go into the military, my grandfather's in the military, I would feel like I had that connection to him. But if not everybody can join the military, for example, or will have success, that type of thing. In the same way, if everybody knows the ritual and we share it with everybody, I feel like the connection between my grandfather is kind of lessened in a sense, because now everybody knows it, as opposed to it's something special between me, my grandfather, and other Masons who either have joined or will join. So, Sofas, that's why I always distinguish between Masons and non-Masons as a way to try and keep the ritual private, if that makes sense. But I also think there's a lot of non-Masons who have a lot of wisdom in terms of the craft and the history of the craft and the buildings. The architects who designed them oftentimes weren't Masons, and I've done a lot of podcasts with them over the years and really enjoyed it. So yeah, Masons, non-Masons. Actually, yesterday we had a great conversation with a non-Mason who had questions about how to join and the membership process and what's expected and when you join, stuff like that, which we can answer, which is public. So that is kind of my view on that. Let me know, Sophis, if you don't mind. And again, please, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, where are you from? What you want to talk about? Are you from Canada, from the States? We've got some brothers in here from the States. Bucharest from Romania. Thank you so much for joining us. Bucharest, if you want to add on to what I said about the private nature of the ritual, if you have anything you want to add and comment on that. Same thing with pronounce how you want. I don't mind. Thank you so much. I'm from the UK. Well, what part of the United Kingdom? My dad and my grandfather are from the United Kingdom. They're from Haltwhistle, which is kind of close to Newcastle. So not too far away from Newcastle. Not too far Newcastle. I bug my dad that he's a Geordie. And Bucharest, let me know, what time is it over in Romania? It's got to be pretty late there, right? It's what, 6 hours, 7 hours past? Something like that. Hi, Michael. You'll know me as Robert. Sorry, I haven't been at the Thursday meeting recently, but I'll definitely join you guys next Thursday. That's awesome that you'll be there. I want to get back on that group chat because I enjoy it a lot. And I know that one is just for Masons. So, well, ritual is not sacred if it is shared. Mine is also in secret. It's an essential part of ritual. I live in London right now, but spend most of my time traveling Asia. Yeah, I agree, right? It's I don't even necessarily always use the term sacred when I'm describing ritual. 716. Okay. Yeah, I tend not to. I don't like the word sacred with the ritual, though a lot of Masons would. It is important. I don't quite know the word. The way I describe it is, so I'm a professional wrestler. I went to professional wrestling school, and me and my classmates in that school, the ones who stuck with it, every day we'd start with 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, and then it increased and increased. I think the most we ever did was 500 one practice, but it's not that the push-ups were sacred, but the fact that everybody went through it together means I have a bond with those people in my wrestling class, and I'll always have a bond with them. And other people who went through professional wrestling school, we have that similar bond. Even if I never met them, I know kind of what they went through. In the same way, every Mason I meet, even though the ritual does change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, that's one thing people don't realize. There are differences in the jurisdiction between different jurisdictions, between Ontario and, say, Michigan, even really close together, and London and England. The fact that I perform the ritual and I see other people who are Masons, we have that connection and that bond, and I think that's a really important thing. So I guess we can use the word sacred. I I don't know if I'd quite use that word. I feel like sometimes it has religious connotations, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I understand what you're saying. At the very least, it's not private if it's shared, and you lose some of that connection. But that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. And mine also isn't secret. It's an essential part of ritual. Okay, so yeah, so you understand kind of the value of ritual and of keeping it private, and of why keeping things private like that is important. So that's awesome. Bucharest Red, early evening. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us this early evening. I really do appreciate it. And I'm hoping that oh, actually, a friend of mine trying to join. I sent the wrong link. I just got to send him the right link. Give me 2 seconds. Shoot. I realize he said he's got a blank screen now. I know why. Let me know, though, Bucharest, if you want to add anything to what I was saying in terms of what I was saying, the ideas that I have, anything like that, by all means, add on to that. I just got to send my friend the correct link so he can hopefully join. Let's see if I can get through to this and send him the link. He's actually a paranormal investigator. We have done a couple of ghost investigations here at the temple, and I love doing them. They were a lot of fun. So hopefully we can do a few more. Let's see if I can get this to him. Let me know, Bucharest, if you've ever performed any ghost investigations or paranormal investigations at your Masonic lodge, or buildings, I should say. I've done 2, and I know somebody else who's done a couple. So it was a lot of they are a lot of fun to do. Michael, let me know if you want to add anything to what I said about ritual, about the sacredness of ritual, all that good stuff. And we'll see if my friend can join. If you can, the Sophus, Bucharest Red, if you're watching this and you haven't, if you could hit the subscribe button on the podcast, I'd really appreciate it. I think that really, really helps a lot in terms of getting this podcast out to people, getting this live stream out to people. The more people who are liking and subscribing, the more people will see it. My friend is not able to join for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'm going to try this out. We see we have some more people joining us. This is the Score and Compass podcast live stream. Please throw something down in the chat. Let us know what's going on, what it is that you want to talk about. I know we have some more people joining us. If you're having any troubles, let me know if the audio is good, if the video is good. I'd really appreciate that as well, because that helps me know that you guys are able to hear and see this okay. And it's great to see the great turnout we've got so far. By all means, keep chatting. I can tell you what's happening with Score and Compass promotions coming up. We have got an episode being released tomorrow on, or actually, sorry, not tomorrow. Today's Friday. On Sunday, with Right Worshipful Brother Peter Cialtzis. He's going to talk about the Grand Lodge Board of General Purposes here in Ontario. I don't know if they have the similar thing in Romania, but the Board of General Purposes at the Grand Lodge level is responsible for administering various Grand Lodge initiatives, whether it be about buildings or cornerstone designations or social media, or anything to that effect. So That's kind of the value of the Grand Lodge Board of General Purposes, but we talk about that. Oh, Bucharest. I did ask our senior warden, had he ever come across any ghostly things happening at our lodge? He told me that in his 200 years as senior warden, he has never seen anything. I see what you did there. That was pretty funny, Bucharest. I support that joke. Very well done. Sophus, how long have you been a Mason, and what degree are you, if I may ask? No, you can ask by all means. And Bucharest, Michael, you're welcome to put in the chat as well if you want to answer the question. I joined in 2007, in October of 2007. So I can't do math. 15, 16 years? 2007 to 2017. So 2022 was 15 years, so 17 years, which is crazy. Time flies. I am so degree, that's kind of a tricky question in a lot of ways. The way I describe it is like this. I am a Master Mason, 3rd degree, and so that's the only degree that matters. The way I explain it is I went to law school, right? Graduated from law school, and everybody who graduated with me were all lawyers. So that's the equivalent of getting your 3rd degree. After graduation, some of us went into criminal law, some of us went into family law, some of us went into real estate law, some of us went into civil corporate law, and all those things require different types of specialized courses you have to take and different trainings. But no one would say that like the real estate lawyer is more of a lawyer than the criminal lawyer or than the corporate lawyer, right? At the end of the day, you're all equal as lawyers. It's just you have different specializations. So I got my 3rd degree. So I'm a Mason fully, I would say. And then after that, I went into Scottish Rite and went up to my 18th degree Scottish Rite. But, that doesn't mean I'm 15 degrees higher than a Master Mason or more of a Mason than somebody who's in New York, right? It just means I chose a specialization to try to gain more knowledge about certain aspects of the craft, if that makes any sense. So that's how I describe it. So I'm a Master Mason. I'm also a past master of 2 of my lodges, which means I was the master for at least 1 year and tried to kind of govern the lodge and set its course for the year. And then I'm also the current worshipful master of another lodge, which I joined recently called Border Cities Lodge. So that is my kind of rank. Oh, Michael Moore. I'm the senior warden of Livonia Lodge, Livonia United 152. Okay, so, and senior deacon for my lodge of research. So, Sophus, just to explain, those are particular offices. Senior warden is kind of, for lack of a better term, it's the second in command in a lot of ways for a lodge. If the worshipful master can't run a meeting or needs assistance, the senior warden is kind of the person who will assist, is how I think of it. But really, the senior warden is an office that's a training position. So he will is kind of spending his year, so this year, getting ready for next year when he will likely become the worshipful master, or potentially become the worshipful master. Because the progression goes junior warden, senior warden, worshipful master, and it's all training to get to the master's chair. And when you're in that master's chair, you're responsible for the lodge. And senior deacon, that's another office that has particular responsibilities related to usually the reception of visitors in Ontario, at least the reception of visitors, as well as the kind of assistance with ceremonies primarily. So they're just referencing different offices within a lodge, which, people don't realize how many different offices are required to run a lodge and how much work it takes to actually not only run a lodge, but run a lodge successfully, and what that can mean. So if that makes any sense at all. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. Buka, Rest Red, or Robert, if you want to share that as well, you can share your kind of offices and what you want to talk about. To everybody watching this, if you haven't done so, and if you can, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and the like button. That kind of helps the podcast get out there and this live stream, and it'd be really appreciated. And you also see all of the actual all of the podcasts we provide to different people with their, where we discuss a lot of different Masonic things. So like I said, we have an episode coming out where we talk about the Board of General Purposes under the auspices of the Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario, which is just a Grand Lodge body that helps administer Freemasonry in Ontario. We've done episodes talking about the paranormal and Freemasonry. We've done episodes talking about ancient Egypt and Freemasonry. We've done episodes talking about different Masonic events. So that's really special. I've been a Freemason since June 2005. I'm a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason and secretary for the Knights of St. Andrew chapter, the local Scottish Rite Valley in Dearborn. So I'll just translate that for you. Sophus, that's means he never sleeps. So he never sleeps. He also has a family, so that also means he never sleeps on top of everything else and his job. So he spends all night up. So it's Master, Senior Warden, Junior Warden, Wisdom, Force, Beauty, right? Yeah, well, the word we would use is strength, but yes, Wisdom, Strength, Beauty. Actually, I've got those right here. I'm not worried about sharing this. I don't think that this is private, but you can see kind of on my arm, SWB. In the AASR, Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, the senior deacon position is known as the expert, very similar functions and responsibilities, just a different name. Yep, yeah, and that's true throughout Freemasonry. Like in the States, a lot of lodges have a Master at Arms, which we don't have in Canada. We have in Ontario, for example, we have what's called an Inner Guard, but which performs a similar function to the Master at Arms. So you do see differences in the craft, and that's something I love about Freemasonry very much, is I love visiting and seeing. It's like, so you travel to a different jurisdiction and you hear people talking about the same things and you recognize what they're talking about, but they're talking about it in different, with different words, and you hear things slightly differently. And so that's really, really special, and fun. And that's the best part about being a Freemason, is travel wherever you go. If I ever found myself in Romania, I know that I could find a lodge there and I'd be able to have brothers, right? I've got brothers everywhere I go, which is a really special thing. And something that I take a lot of pride in. And the other way around too, if anybody's visiting Windsor, they know they've got a place to visit and maybe grab a bite to eat or coffee or whatever it is at the Windsor Masonic Temple. So that's something really special. For instance, in emulation, the Inner Guard performs the same functions as the Tyler in AASR. Yep. That is a perfect example of that. So I'm guessing then, Bucas Red, you are a member of the Scottish Rite as well, which is awesome. I am a member of Scottish Rite, like I said, 18th degree. I didn't go out to the 32nd because I'm busy. Just see my friend still trying to join us, and he's having a hard time. And I love it when he does, because he talks about paranormal investigations and Freemasonry, which is a fun topic. So we got some people. I think my dad was also going to try to join us if he could. You would always find a warm welcome at Invictus Lodge in Bucharest. We are the only English-speaking lodge in Romania. Huh, that's really cool. Well, thank you so much, and I'll keep that in mind. I would love to visit Romania. I hear it's absolutely beautiful. What's the weather like in Romania? I'm kind of curious. I hear it's absolutely gorgeous, though. One of the most beautiful places you can visit is what I'm told. Especially because it's got so much history, and I love history. It's probably my favorite thing in the world is seeing. That's why I love Freemasonry. One of the reasons I love Freemasonry is all the history that you can find there, which I think is in Freemasonry. Like most lodges are, Freemasonry dates to even earlier, but the traditional date assigned to its founding is 1717. Oh, actually, a couple of, I think it was 2 days ago, it is hot, very hot. I did not know that. Okay. I thought it was like moderate temperature in Bucharest. Or in Bucharest. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. I did not know that. So if nothing else, one of the most fun things about these live streams is I get to learn new stuff, even if it's not about Freemasonry. So saying, yeah, Freemasonry dates to traditional date is 1717, but it goes back even further than that, 16th, 15th century, sometimes even earlier in Romania. So that's kind of a lot of fun. And our buildings are very old. I mean, a lot of them date to the 1920s, probably not as old as some buildings in Romania, I'm sure. And a lot of them are the oldest single-use buildings in Ontario, meaning they never had other owners in them, like the Windsor Masonic Temple, oldest single-owned building in Windsor and the surrounding area. By the way, Livonia United 152 is having our annual public installation of officers December 7th, 2024. Anyone can attend, but the public part doesn't start until 1 p.m. Yeah, and that's a really interesting part that's worth talking about too. Differences between lodges. In Ontario, our installations are private. They're not open to the public. They will sometimes close the lodge or go from labor to refreshment in order to invite the public and members of the public in to do a special presentation. Then the members of the public will leave and we'll go back to labor and it just be Masons. But I think that's true of most places in my experience in the States is they have open installations, including in, for example, Texas, Missouri. All those places tend to have open installations, which I think is a really good. Again, I think there's benefits to both. I think our installations tend to be in Ontario because they're private, tend to be a little bit more solemn, a little bit more special. But the ones in the States, you get the public more involved, you get families more involved. It can be more of a community event or at least a family event. So there are benefits and drawbacks to both, right? Which I think is what it should be. I think everything has ups and downs to it. Sophus, you said you travel a lot to Asia. If you want, you can let us know what parts of Asia. That'd be interesting because I consider myself a professional traveler, but it's really only been through North America primarily. I really haven't had the chance to visit and to England. But North America, including Mexico, a lot of places in the States. I really haven't had the chance to visit much in Europe or Asia, and I want to visit more, so it's on my list. There are some places in Asia where I understand Freemasonry is really, really popular, especially in Japan. I was told. I don't have a ton of information about that. And in India, I've actually interviewed a Mason from India, and we learned more about Freemasonry there, which was really cool. I understand in India, Freemasonry, like there's 4 jurisdictions in the country. I actually interviewed him during COVID, and India was obviously really struggling with it. So we talked to him about how Masons were dealing with COVID and trying to help the communities and cities and their people in those towns. So for us, all over India, China, Asia. I was in Burma a few months ago, which is an eye-opening experience. Yes, it is. I found that Masonry is very popular. It is hugely popular in the Philippines. I can't believe I forgot to mention that when I was talking about Asia. Probably, I would say, in my understanding, Freemasonry is more popular in the Philippines than just about anywhere else. Based on my knowledge and research, we have here in Canada a lot of Filipino Masons, and we're lucky to have them. That's also true in the States. There are a lot of Filipino Masons. Sometimes they will join Freemasonry in the Philippines, and then when they immigrate to Canada, they will carry on. Sometimes they will come to will join after. Sometimes they're like second, third generation, and their family were Masons, and they'll join. But the Filipino culture and the people provide so much to Freemasonry. If nothing else, the food. The junior warden is the office that's responsible for providing refreshment to lodge members, and I can tell you, whenever we have a Filipino junior warden, the food is delicious. So, but they're really dedicated to the craft. One of my really good friends, Bon Soto, is a Filipino Freemason, joined in the Philippines, and kept it up when he came here. And he's a really cool dude and a really good guy. Probably due to their affinity with the Judeo-Catholic worldview. Probably. I mean, I will say there's been a bit of conflict, not on our side, not on the Masonic side, but I know that the Catholics, the Catholic Church, expressed concerns about Freemasonry in the past. But I would say it could be. Right. I mean, having said that, it's always important to keep in mind that Freemasonry is not you can be of any faith, or so long as you believe in a supreme being, you can join Freemasonry. So we have Jewish brothers, Muslim brothers, First Nations or Indigenous brothers, Christian, Catholic, Hindu, and then those who are maybe don't have a religious faith per se would describe themselves as spiritual, but do believe in a supreme being. So yeah. You say here, I was in Burma a few months ago, which was an eye-opening experience. Can you say what was maybe eye-opening about it? What you found eye-opening in Burma? Was it just the people? Was it masonry? Did you see a lot of masonry there? Okay, because Burma is next to Thailand and south of China, it looks like. The tension, hearing the Muslims and the Buddhists talk about their hate for each other and kind understanding both sides. It's a shame. I mean, I don't know anything or, almost nothing about that part of the world. So I hate it when there's tension anywhere. Hopefully everybody can find a way to get along. I mean, I will say that's one of the things I love about Freemasonry, right? We have Buddhists in our lodge, we have Muslims in our lodges, and I've never seen any strife between the two. And that's true. We have all different faiths in our lodges, and we all find a way to get along in there. So maybe the world can learn something from Freemasonry. They're at war, basically. So yes, that would be a true adventure indeed. I'm very glad that the gun didn't go off, and that you're here today to chat with us. But yeah, when you say adventure, that would be a true adventure. So glad that you made it back and that you're safe and you could join us here today. Still got some people watching. Some people have came and went. But Michael, if you want to throw anything in there, or Bucharest Red, if you want to throw anything in there, it's been great seeing all the people join. Let me know how you found this podcast. It sounds like Bucharest Red. It sounds like you found this podcast by a link that Michael left, which was very kind of him. Sophus, did they just pop up on your YouTube timeline? Or yeah, let me know how you found us. And I'm gonna go see. My pops was said he might try to join. So I'm gonna see if he can join quickly. I've been getting some. He is a Mason out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is a little bit far away from me here in Windsor, but it's nice when he can join. When he's not out gallivanting somewhere, as he often is. Or he should be anyway. He should be out there causing trouble. Thank you, Michael, for promoting this chat on the Global Masonic Group chat. Yes, thank you, Michael. I agreed. Just randomly on my feed. That's good. Well, I'm happy that you found it. I'm happy that it popped up on your feed. Happy that you joined us. I have also promoted on my Facebook page. Thank you, Bucharest Red. Do you mind putting in the thing what your Facebook page is? I'm going to see. Maybe I can find you and friend you. I know you're friends with Michael. This is a public forum, don't forget, so you don't have to. But my Facebook page is Cameron Adamson. I am friends with Michael Aaron Moore, so you may be able to find me that way. Or let's see. And I'm also in some of the group chats. So the out of curiosity to Bucharest, we were talking about this yesterday. So I'm curious if you still have if you could add anything to it. We're talking about social events that lodges hold. In Romania, what type of social events do your lodges hold? Do you go to sporting events or barbecues or picnics or movie nights? I mean, there's also the different things that you could do, right? So just out of curiosity, what are the kind of social events that are held in lodges in Romania and in Bucharest? And is your lodge holding anything right now? And thank you, everybody, for hitting the like button. That is much appreciated. If anybody can join in the chat, let me know how it's going and what you want to talk about. Yeah, that does make me really happy to see that it popped up just randomly on your feed, Sophus, because that means that some more people hopefully are going to be getting this. The more times it pops up, it means YouTube likes the feed enough to have it show up. Michael, if you're still watching and you want to jump on anything, go ahead. Uh, one thing, and I talked about this yesterday, but one thing I've been trying to talk about a lot is the idea, and this is something I wrote about in my Medium page, which is where I do written stories about Freemasonry. I talk about unreasonable hospitality, or I titled the story Unreasonable Freemasonry, but it's based on concepts related to unreasonable hospitality. Unreasonable hospitality was a concept that was pioneered at what was named the #1 restaurant in the world, where basically the idea was they spent as much time focusing on providing exceptional or unreasonable service as they did on the food. So that meant, like an example he gave is they had a couple of diners who missed their flight, or their flight got canceled, or for whatever reason they weren't able to take a vacation that they had planned to a tropical beach somewhere, tropical resort. So the restaurant actually created like a tropical beach for them in one of their dining rooms, filled it with sand, brought in like some water, tried to turn it into a version of a tropical resort for them for their dinner. And there's other examples throughout of ways to provide unreasonable or exceptional hospitality. And that got me thinking, are there ways in Freemasonry that we can provide exceptional or unreasonable hospitality to our members, to our guests, to our visitors? What can we do to make the lodge experience special, special for everyone involved? Above and beyond, the classic examples of reading the minutes and performing the ritual. What else can we do that's special? So that is something I've been working on, the idea of unreasonable hospitality, or in this case, what I call it, unreasonable masonry. The other things that I've been talking a lot about lately are our Grand Lodge annual communication. I only have 20, you have more followers than I do, so I wouldn't use the term only for that, Bucharest Red, though I appreciate it. I would say you should be really proud if you got 2,300 followers. That's really impressive amount. So hopefully one or two people do come to the channel from it, and I appreciate it. It's funny, one of my favorite novels, probably my favorite novel in the world. Well, it's close. It's tied between three. Don Quixote is one, which I love, as you can tell by, if nothing else, you can tell by my Don Quixote tattoo there. The other one would probably be Colorado Kid by Stephen King, but the other one would be The Long Walk, written by Stephen King under his alias Richard Bachman. And I bring that up because one of my favorite quotes in that book is there's this sign that says only X number of miles to go. They're basically on some type of forced death march, basically, in this book, The Long Walk, or forced death walk. But they come across this sign that says only X number of miles to go till Boston. You can do it. And the main character Garrity looks at it and thinks, what a horribly stupid word only is, and we should get rid of that word from the English language. And that quote always stuck with me. So I always say never say the word only, right? 2,300 followers is something to be very, very proud of, Bucharest Red. That's something I would be impressed with. So keep up the good work. Clearly you're doing something right. Maybe I'll go find that quote at some point. So yeah, but still, Bucharest Red, if you could, I don't know if you got the chance, if you maybe can let us know in the chat, what type of events does Freemasonry in Romania hold? On your lodge, do you hold social events? Oh, hope everybody's okay. Do you hold social events? Do you go to sporting events? How do you engage your lodge in social functions and events like that? Be really curious to know. Because I'm always looking for new ideas. Like we've done barbecues, we've done softball games, we've had all sorts of different Masonic experiences and Masonic social functions, and that's a major part of the craft as well. So you may have some ideas and maybe some things that we could steal perhaps for our brethren and their families. So let us know in the chat. And Sophus, let us know what you're thinking about the chat so far, and if you're enjoying it, and if you're getting information that you find helpful, and if there's anything else that you want to know. You can also, we don't have to just talk about Freemasonry, though. Again, it's my favorite thing. I'm happy to discuss other topics as well. Sometimes on this live chat, we've ended up talking about our favorite scary movies, because I love scary movies. Probably I think my list of favorites goes Freemasonry, professional wrestling, and scary movies. Maybe scary movies and professional wrestling is tied. Who knows? I'm going to see if I can't track you down, though, on... It sounded kind of creepy. See if I can't find Bucas Red on Michael Moore's friends list. Or in anybody's friend list, actually. Let me know also if there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Any questions you have about Freemasonry? Also, how you find maybe... How maybe you find the Square Campus podcast, and also if you watch other Masonic podcasts. And if you do, what type of podcast it is that you follow. There's some really, really great ones out there. Right? There's oh my gosh, amongst other ones, right? There's Masonic Roundtable, there's First Three Knocks. There's so many really great Masonic podcasts out there. I'm hoping you guys are following those as well as this one. I'd really appreciate it if you did. Just checking to see who's joining. As always, feel free to put some stuff in the chat. Let me know if the audio is good, if the video is good, if there's anything else that you want to talk about. My friend tried to join, but didn't have any success, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if everybody can get this feed. I'm hoping they all can. Thank you, Michael, for sharing it. That's much appreciated. I'm going to see if I can share it with a few more people right now as well. I am subscribed now, so I will catch you next time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, taking the time to subscribe really helps the channel out and helps it grow. Being a lifelong student of the mysteries and occult, I had many Mason friends, and my late mentor was a 32nd. They have always been surprised that I know what they think I shouldn't. I mean, yeah, so much of that stuff now, for better or worse, is on the internet. That and so many people know kind of some of the secrets. What I always say is, right, the danger of the internet is it'll tell you stuff that's true, but it'll tell you stuff that's false as well. And it's not going to necessarily tell you which is which. So you end up getting a mishmash of correct, of true and false information. And that can cause problems, especially if you want to join. And the danger there is, right, you join and maybe you get disappointed because not everything you thought was true, it turns out to be true. Because there's just so much information, so much stuff on the internet, you know? I've seen so many websites that they'll have a couple things that are true and then a whole bunch of things that are completely false on there, right? And so it's like, I think sometimes it gives people a false sense of what Freemasonry is. It's almost more dangerous than if it's all completely false. Then you can dismiss it out of hand and it's easier. So that's always kind of my concern about that. Sofas, if you do get the chance, I hope that if you haven't done so yet, I hope you'll hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Because by liking it and subscribing, you help other people find this podcast and these live streams. I've got a big event tomorrow, or a big meeting tomorrow I got to go to, but I'm hoping to live stream during the morning as well. Not in terms of internet. Thank you so much, Sophus. I appreciate it. Not in terms of the internet. I think it's more that the craft derives from the older mystery schools, going back to Plato and to the Egyptians. I study the ancient wisdom and it's all there. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Freemasonry, right, is how do I say this? So Freemasonry, the type of Mason I am, also could be known as speculative. It derives from stonemasons, and actual guilds of men who built things out of stone. And the practice of building things out of stone dates, just like you say there, right? Dates back to ancient wisdom. I mean, we're going back. You could argue, and I do want to do a podcast about this actually, that the very first stonemasons, professional stonemasons, was actually found in ancient Egypt. I remember reading an article about corpses that they found in ancient Egypt. They found certain skeletons that seemed to around, I think, the pyramids, something like that, that seemed to be healthier and the bones were bigger and seemed to have better nutrition than others. And they think that those were actually the professional stonemasons that oversaw the building of the pyramids, right? So they're like your first professional stonemasons. But even just the idea of building things from stone, I mean, that dates back even further than the pyramids. You're talking about Stonehenge and even older monuments, depending how far back you want to take it, right? And what constitutes building from stone. So I think that, yeah, Freemasonry can date a lot of its ideas and its moral lessons to ancient Egypt, to ancient Greece, even the idea of geometry, which is a very important idea in stonemasonry, knowing how to cut a stone so it's square, knowing how to create a square, and the idea of geometry as like a moral truth. You're dealing with things like Euclid, right? Which is ancient Greece. Even one of my podcast episodes I did was on the Euclid space mission, because right, that's a NASA mission. That's a satellite that was launched into space to help study basically the geometry of the universe, right? And so you think about how amazing that is, that this knowledge, this ancient Greek geometrician who lived thousands of years ago, gave us the basis of knowledge that allows us to understand how to construct things, stonemasonry, and how to use geometry to create perfect squares, as well as these concepts that we apply to our moral geometry, as well as an understanding of the whole universe and actual technology that Euclid could never even imagine, nonetheless being sent off into space, and what that means for the idea of geometry and how important it is to understanding ourselves, the world, and the entire universe. What was it? It was above the Plato's Academy, right, in Greek. Let no one who does not understand geometry enter here. So that's a really, really important, important idea. And I think you're absolutely right. Definitely a lot of our lessons derive from Plato, Euclid, Pythagoras, the Egyptians, all of that type of stuff. So cool. Well, I'm glad that you like to study that stuff as well. I think it's a real shame that we don't have more people studying in the world in general, studying classics, because they're pretty important, and I think that they provide a lot of knowledge, not just Masonic knowledge. So I will say one thing Freemasonry really does encourage and I appreciate for is trying to be a more learned individual. One line of wisdom goes all the way back. I think many Masons make the mistake of thinking they hold the only keys. I don't know if you heard me talking about the word only and why I can't stand that word. And I think you just gave a great example of it, right? Like, yeah, if anybody, this is just my opinion. I speak for myself. If anybody says like, my way is the only way, or I have the only truth or the only knowledge, I tend to be pretty wary of that. I can speak for myself and say, right, that for me, Masonry provides a lot of valuable things, but it certainly doesn't provide, it's not the only route to wisdom. There are many different routes that people take to get to different types of wisdom. And I think that's a personal choice, right? I liken it to the way when people ask me like why I like Freemasonry or why I love Freemasonry, I always say it's because I like the way it sounds. And what I mean by that is I liken it to music, right? Like my favorite song, let me know in the chat what your favorite song is. My favorite song is probably Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, although a close second, maybe a first, might be Prodigal by Blacktop Mojo. Both great songs. But it's not like before I heard those songs, I decided, this song I haven't heard yet is going to be my favorite song. I just happened to hear it at the right time and the right moment and the right whatever it might be, and it just spoke to me in that moment, and it became my favorite song. A million other people can hear the exact same song, hear the exact same notes, hear the exact same chords, the exact same lyrics, and it won't be their favorite song. They'll either think it's an okay song or a good song, or if they're crazy, they might not like the song at all. But so it's not like a conscious choice, if that makes sense. It's just for whatever reason, there's something about that song and the time I heard it and my personality that just gravitated towards it and fell in love with it. And the same thing is true for movies. I love scary movies. Not everybody does, and that's fine. It's just the way I'm wired and the time I saw my first scary movie. And that's also true of Freemasonry. So, a million people can join Freemasonry and take the same ritual I did and have the same experience I did. And some people will think it's okay. Some people will fall in love with it. Some people will hate it and not come back. And all of that is perfectly fine. Again, it's just the way that you're wired and the way that you are. So, some people may not be able to find wisdom in Freemasonry because it doesn't speak to them, because for any number of reasons. And, that's not a good thing or a bad thing. That's just the way that they're wired. But it's not the only way to find wisdom, right? And I think for everybody, they kind of have to find their own way to find it. For me, it just so happens that in a lot of ways, Freemasonry is what helps me find wisdom, I think. So, but certainly there are many other ways to find wisdom. And if you have found a different way, and it sounds like you did, then that's great. I think that's awesome. You say one line of wisdom goes all the way back. So, right, if you're studying that, and if you find it speaks to you, then I think that's wonderful. And feel free to share any of those teachings here with us if you'd like. And anybody else who's joined us, I see we got some more likes and some more people jumping in and out. So throw something down in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. It's been great to see the turnout so far and great to see a lively chat. I wonder, actually, I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to go see if I can find that. Actually, no, I don't have it here. I was going to say, if I can find that book, maybe I can find that quote about only. Do I still have a copy of something here? There's so many books, but I don't remember which ones I got anymore. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back. Whenever I go, I leave this guy here. I'll be right back. If you want, put in the chat your favorite song. No, sadly, I couldn't find it. Welcome. If you guys are watching this, this is a live stream. I just took off for a second to see if I could find my one of my favorite books, because there's a quote in there I was trying to find. I couldn't, but I found another one of my favorite books, Colorado Kid by Stephen King. If you get the chance to read it, you really should, because it's an amazing book. This is our Square and Compass live stream talking about Freemasonry, but anything anybody else wants to talk about. So please, by all means, throw something down in the chat. Let us know anything you want to talk about as it relates to Freemasonry. Or heck, could be your favorite movies, favorite TV shows. We've been doing a lot of pop culture talk lately. Talk about Freemasonry in pop culture. Yesterday, we were talking about different Masonic, different depictions of Freemasonry or fraternal orders in movies and TV shows. So we touched on The Simpsons. We touched on, the Homer the Great episode, which I really liked. I love that episode of The Simpsons. From Hell, my favorite, maybe. Lodge 49. So that's something really fun. If I ever get the chance, and I'm not saying I can't imagine I would, I'd love to have Johnny Depp or Heather Graham or the Hughes brothers on the podcast to talk about From Hell, because I loved that movie. Even though Freemasons are maybe depicted negatively, I'm not sure that's true or not. I still really love that movie. So check it out if you haven't watched it before. It's a great one. I think I once posted the trailer or shared the trailer. Maybe I'll share it again when I'm done with this. Whenever I put this guy up, I feel like we get more views. So I'm going to leave this guy here, see if that helps get me more people clicking on. Sophist, let me know what you thought of my let me know what you thought of maybe my explanation of liking the way Freemasonry sounds, and maybe you want to discuss some of your wisdom, one line of wisdom, what that line might be. Bucharest, Red, if you're still there, let me know what you want to talk about as well. Everybody, I hope that you are still sticking around, because I've been enjoying this conversation a lot. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Good to see you. Thank you for hitting the chat. Have you seen the past chat we have going on? Anything you want to add to it? Go ahead. Let us know what lodge you're from if you want. We had some Masons from Michigan. I'm from Ontario. We got Manitoba joining us. We had Romania joining us. We had a gentleman from England join us as well, though he traveled a lot to the States. Not a Mason himself, but still a lot of knowledge. Let us know how your brothers are doing, all that good stuff. I agree with you on that, but does that mean that wisdom is relative to perspective? I think there are eternal truths. Masonry holds many of them, but only insofar as they inherit from past tradition. So, I mean, starting with the latter part first, Masonry holds many of them, but only insofar as they inherited from past tradition. I think that's true, but I think that's kind of true of everything, right? In the sense that um, like everything takes from the thing before it. So if you look at like physics, right? If you take the eternal truth, I would argue the eternal truth, right? That um, you know, 1 + 1 = 2. Or if you just look at the idea of physics, right? There's like 5 different levels to it, right? There's starting now, kind of there's scientific method, and there's the ability to use the laws of physics to build things, to build um, rocket ships and cars and bridges that don't fall down and all those type of things. And that's based on kind of the physics that has existed forever, but we're able to apply it and use it in such a way as to make our lives better. And then before that, there was the physics of just being aware of it. So, you know, human beings understanding, for example, the Pythagorean theorem, understanding geometric truths, but not really being able to apply it in any meaningful way. You know, discovering pi, the ratio of the circumference to the diameter, or, you know, all those type of things where there's the knowledge of it without the application of it. And then before that, you have the, you know, animals who they don't even understand it, but they still kind of use it a little bit. So, you know, a lion when it's hunting a gazelle knows how to cut a corner, knows how to perform kind of a calculation in its head of the angle at which it needs to attack the antelope or the gazelle to eat it, or you know, if an animal is trying to get more leverage to move something, it knows where to grab it to move it. That's another example of, you know, physics. And then before that, there's just the gods did it, right? Like these things exist, but there's no one there to observe them or put them into practice or understand them. They're just principles that exist. And so, you know, I think that you know, yes, we can come up with new theories of physics that we then test and then apply. But we're still always inheriting from kind of a past tradition of them, even, or, you know, even just you look at like Einstein's general theory of, or special theory of relativity. You could say, you know, it was a breakthrough, and it was, but he wasn't just starting from a blank state. He was looking at past theories, the ether, whatever it is, and figuring out, you know, why those didn't work. And based on that, inheriting those traditions, he then was able to come up with the new tradition, the new wisdom, right? And so I think Masonry is no different than any other organization in that it is always going to be inheriting its ideas from past traditions. Um, and in terms of is wisdom relative to perspective, I think I mean, I think it is in a lot of ways. I think wisdom is relative to perspective. There is, I mean, again, whatever your perspective is, 2 + 2 will always equal 4. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. So it's not relative in that sense, but the way you learn about that wisdom and the way that you come to understand those truths, that's going to be relative. It's no different than learning, right? Everybody learns in a different way. And so some people learn through just reading, some people learn through doing, some people learn through hearing. And so whether or not the wisdom is there are eternal truths and eternal wisdom, the way that that is learned and the way that that is understood is going to be different from person to person, right? And so again, for me, I was lucky enough to find Freemasonry, and that has kind of helped me hopefully become a more wise person, though it's debatable, but hopefully has helped me to become more wise and um, kind of tap into some of those eternal truths. But that's also because it's relative to what I find interesting and what speaks to me. Other people may find other paths to the same truths because it's what speaks to them. Some people find it through religion, some people find it through scientific studies, some people find it through a combination of both, right? And then some people even find it through, they find different types of wisdom. So they may never explore the wisdom of physics or science, but they explore the wisdom of um, literature and art and those type of truths and what is beautiful, right? And what is meaningful. From Kilkona Lodge number 183 under the Grand Lodge of, yep, Dad is from Kilkona Lodge 183. Thank you for joining us again. Throw it down in the chat. Anything you want to talk about? Sofas, who, by the way, mentioned the chat earlier, from England. So we got a couple Englishmen on the chat. I guess it goes back to the profane. I would apply that to 95% of non-Masons, but think there is a separate group who have also learned the mysteries from the ancient traditions, just as the Masons did. Sure. I mean, yeah. I try to avoid using the word profane. I just think Masons and non-Masons, right? But there are a lot of non-Masons who have researched a lot about Masonry and in different areas. In some cases, yes, the ancient traditions and ancient rituals and stonemasons and religious ceremonies that from ancient times that in some ways have been adopted into certain Masonic traditions. But even in modern times, in terms of like, there's been there was a researcher out of the States who wrote a whole thesis on the economics of Freemasonry and how Masonic lodges affected the economy of the local communities in which they were located. Somebody else who's not a Mason wrote a book about Masonic architecture and Masonic buildings built in New York State from like I can't think of it, 1830 something to or 1860 to 1920, something like that. So even that type of wisdom and knowledge is available from non-Masons, right? I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can sometimes make in Freemasonry is thinking that only exclusively Masons can provide information about Masonry, whereas that is not the case in my experience. There are a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge about Freemasonry and the craft that are not themselves Masons. You never know where you can find knowledge. You can find it almost anywhere, which is why it's important to be open to, for Masons out there, that's why it's important to be open to knowledge from non-Masons, such as friend of the chat right now, Sophus, friend of the channel. Terry McLeod. Hi, Terry from the Grand Lodge of Mississippi, center of the known universe. Perspective of Freemasonry is as a collective, and the perspective of an individual is a solitary journey. Most forget. Well, first of all, Terry, I sadly have never been to Mississippi, but it is another place on my list of places I really want to visit for Freemasonry. So if I ever make it down there, hopefully you'll show me where your lodges are and stuff. I know Mississippi is not a small state, but maybe I'll get to a couple lodges there. Perspective of FM, I'm assuming Freemasonry, is as a collective, and the perspective of an individual is a solitary journey. Unfortunately, most forget. I will for sure, and thank you for that. Could you expand on what you said there? Your comment: perspective of Freemasonry is a collective, and the perspective of an individual is a journey. I think. Well, so the way I read that, I got my wisdom from watching scary movies, Dad. From Freddy Krueger. We're gonna say that. I was watching scary movies with my friend Tyson. Um, but you had some good gems in there too. I mean, to me, what I read from what Terry was saying is like every individual is on his own individual journey. So I may sit through a Masonic meeting and pick up a piece of wisdom that is completely different from, say, somebody else who sits through the same meeting and picks up a different piece of wisdom. Or I may go to a meeting and have a great time, and the person next to me may go to the meeting and have a crummy time, or vice versa. So it's an individual journey that we're on, but the goal is to grow collectively, right? I don't want to be having on my solitary journey an excellent time if the lodge is suffering and not doing well, because then what's the point, right? I want to make sure that my journey is my perspective is hopefully one that takes into consideration other people in the lodge and the collective, and tries to do what's best for that collective to grow it. Because I can do what's best for me all I want. If at the end of the day, the lodge can't function anymore because I'm not taking into account the collective needs, then we lose that lodge, I think is how I take it. We tend to view the world as what we, I think that says, we tend to view the world as what we perceive it to be. Well, that's true, right? There's a lot of different ways to perceive the world. And just because we see it one way, that doesn't mean other people are going to see it the same way. I mean, that's an interesting thing about Freemasonry, right? Is hopefully, if a lodge is going well, you can have a blend of perspectives and all the different perspectives joined together to create, so you're not so convinced that you've got it right, I think is what is meant by that. If you don't mind me asking, Terry, do you know, just out of curiosity, how many lodges are there in Mississippi? Or, I mean, I know it's hard to say, but if you know roughly, how many lodges are there in Tennessee, in Mississippi? Excuse me. How many lodges are there in Mississippi, and how many Masons roughly? And Dad, if you want to jump in, anything you want to add to the chat? We got a few more people joining us. By the way, 200 lodges? That's pretty good. That's a very impressive number. Or is it 200 Masons? I'm assuming 200 lodges is what you mean by that. If you could, by the way, Terry, if you get the chance, then you can hit the subscribe button and the like button on this discussion. That would be great. Subscribing helps the channel grow, and like button as well helps other people see it. Less than 10,000. Okay. Where would be the big, like, if I were to visit, what would be the biggest lodge to visit, or because let's say I were to fly in, I'm guessing, what's the capital? Where would I fly into? I'm pulling this up. I'm going to Google. I'm still here. I'm just on the Google though. It's Jackson, right? Jackson, Mississippi. Yeah, it's capital. So I'm assuming that's where I might fly into. Are there lodges there I could visit? I feel like that'd be the best spot, or maybe where the Grand Lodge is. And also, Terry, let me know how you came across Jackson, Mississippi. Yeah, so maybe that's where I'll have to go because I really want to visit more lodges in the South. Really, in terms of Masonic lodges I visited in the American South, it's primarily been Texas and Florida. Haven't got to Louisiana, haven't got to Mississippi, haven't got to Arkansas. They're all on the list. I made it to Arizona, but I think that's considered more west than south. But I got to Phoenix and I got to Nogales, Arizona. Then we crossed over into Mexico. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, let me know also how you came across this. Were you scrolling? Did you see it on Facebook? Was it shared by Michael Moore? Let me know how you came across this. Texas and Florida aren't considered Southern in the South. Ha. Okay, so I've heard different things about that. I wasn't sure. So I guess Texas would be considered the West, right? Like the West, and Florida. I mean, I've heard Florida is one of those states where the more north you go, the more south you get. So like Miami wouldn't be considered the South, but Jacksonville, Florida would be considered the South. In Florida, it's always been Orlando that I've visited. And I found Orlando felt kind of, as much as I can say, felt kind of like a southern-ish town. They certainly had accents that reminded me of kind of people I knew from the South. Global chat, and you send email. I am not sure how many lodges in Manitoba, Canada, but membership is declining. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, I feel like it's declining everywhere, unfortunately. It seems like there has been some efforts, though, to turn things around. Hopefully, we'll be able to keep that going. I'm keeping my fingers crossed about that. Let me ask you a question, Terry, because I don't know what the answer is in Mississippi. For your Grand Lodge annual communication, do you have it in one location every year, or does it move around? We have in Ontario for the last several years, since the 90s, I believe, but at least since I joined in 2007, always held it in Toronto, in the GTA, Greater Toronto Area. But I'm trying to convince some people to start looking at maybe moving it around and maybe trying to have it in some other locations, particularly my hometown of Windsor, Ontario. Okay, same location. So just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts about potentially moving the annual communication around to different locations in, say, Mississippi? Would you, if somebody were to suggest that for Mississippi, would you support it, or would you be opposed to it? And maybe let us know why in the chat. And Dad, I guess I'll ask you the same question. I know that it's always held in Winnipeg, to my knowledge, your annual communication, but what are your thoughts about potentially moving it around to other locations? Would you be opposed to that, supportive of it? What would your thoughts be on that? Throw that down in the chat. And Sophus, if you're still there, I hope you're still enjoying this conversation. Same thing with our friend from Romania, Bucharest. Feel free to add anything you want to add in the chat. I'd love to hear more about you and what you want to talk about. And thank you for everybody for hitting the subscribe button and the like button. That really helps the podcast get out there. You would be correct in your ideas on Texas and Florida. There are areas that are more southernish. Yeah. I am hoping soon. Well, I mean, I don't know how soon actually, to get to Miami, Florida, which I guess would not be considered the South by any means, but I've heard Miami has some really interesting Masonic lodges, so that's on the list of places I want to visit. Fingers crossed I can get there soon. Next thing I have planned right now is a trip to Pennsylvania for a supernatural expo, because I love the spooky and paranormal, and Pennsylvania is holding one of those in about a month, September 28th to 29th. And then also, I'm really hoping to hold to potentially visit Chicago again, which is my home away from home. Dad can attest to that. I love Chicago, got a lot of good friends there, so I might go there for a short bit of time and visit a lodge in Michigan. Visit some brothers in Dearborn, Michigan, which is not very far away at all from me. It creates logistical issues in finding space and hotel accommodations if you moved it around in our space. Is it just a matter of most towns are smaller and don't have the hotel rooms available? Because yeah, and I understand the logistics of, you need so many hotel rooms. You need you need a sufficient number of hotel rooms. You need a sufficient number of space to hold the annual communication. So is it just smaller towns in Mississippi? How many people roughly would you say you get when you are holding your annual communication? If you have less than 10,000, then Masons, 200 lodges, that works out to what? 500, or I can't, nobody point out to my dad I can't do math to save my life. Dad, if you're watching this, I can totally do math. Yeah, 50. So that works out to about 50 members per lodge. I don't know, Dad, if you're still there and you have any ideas about would they be able to move the annual communication around in Manitoba? When I went to visit it, it didn't seem like there was a ton of people. So I feel like they could probably move people around, move it around. I mean, Brandon would probably have sufficient space, you know. I suspect. And let me know what else you guys want to talk about. Anything else, I'm more than happy to discuss. Sophus, if you want to talk more about the ancient wisdom you're discussing, I've got plenty of time, and I always enjoy being here on the podcast and talking to people. So, right, let's keep this going. It's been a really fun time. We had, while we're waiting, I'll talk about some other fun things that happened. Oh, Sophus, I have been invited many times. My mentor is a famous 30-second astrologer. I worry that I will be beholden to vows and contracts. Not sure how much you can share, but this is my concern. Harry, Winnipeg, Manitoba is where the Grand Lodge communication is always held. It is central to the province, so it wouldn't be advisable to move it around. Terry McLeod, continue the early conversation, was enjoying it. Well, I'm happy to keep the early conversation going. Though I don't know if I should be talking about wisdom. You can ask people who know me. Might not be advisable. Going into Sophus, a point about vows and contracts. So I can't speak to every obligation because they can change jurisdiction, but UGLE, the Grand Lodge of England, has a very similar obligation to mine here in Ontario, and my dad's in Manitoba and in the States as well. So in my experience is, and we kind of explain it, the obligations that you take in my experience, primarily relate to things related to secrecy, and maintaining the secrets of Freemasonry. I've never seen or heard anything in any obligation that would be contrary to, I'll put it that way, that would be contrary to, your civil responsibilities, your familial responsibilities, your religious beliefs, for example. One of the things I love about Freemasonry is it's meant to, at least in my experience, is it's meant to, even though it's quote unquote secret society, which it's really not, right? Or society with secrets is a better way to put it. Even though it's got private elements to it, it's meant to integrate and be a part of your life. And because of that, right, the obligations that you take, you can follow those, and also, it doesn't affect your ability to be a good citizen, to do your job, to take care of your family, to be a good friend, all that type of stuff. So, I can't share the specifics of the wording of it, but that has been my experience anyways, is that if that's your concern, right, there's no vow or, and contract isn't even the right word. I wouldn't use the word contract. I would say obligations. There's no obligations that interfere with your personal, professional, or civic life. I would offer that we state it as secrecy, but it more resembles private to the group. Yep. I agree with that, Terry, 100%. I think private is probably the much better word. I don't know exactly where secret came into the vernacular. I think it's unfortunate because secret can sometimes have some more negative connotations, which I think is really unfortunate. I think it's much better to just say it's private, which it is, right? And people understand private. We have public lives and we have private lives. Corporations have their public facing aspects and their private aspects. I think they talk about this in the Lost Symbol, right, from when I read it, right? Like Coca-Cola has a lot of, it's not a secret organization. Everybody knows, or Pepsi, because I got it here, right? Everybody knows what Pepsi is. You can see its headquarters. You can see its distribution centers. Everybody, nobody hides the fact that they work at Pepsi. They have their logo. They have their symbols, right? You could argue this is a logo. You could call it a symbol. It means something. So it's not a secret organization. But if I walked up to Pepsi and didn't work there and asked for the recipe to make Pepsi in my basement, they're going to tell me to get lost, because that is something that's important to them and necessary for them to continue to function, with their stated purpose and employ their people. And in the same way, that's how I view Freemasonry. We are not a secret organization. We put our symbols on our buildings. You can find our buildings anywhere. Masons, I'm, more than upfront that I'm a Freemason and I love it. Masons march in parades. They take part in public funeral services for their members. They write letters about the craft. They have open houses. So they do all of those things in public. But if you were to go in and ask for the secrets, the quote unquote secrets, they would tell you no, because again, maintaining those secrets allows Freemasonry to continue to function as it was meant to all those years ago. And it allows us to remain close with our brothers without allowing just anybody to get the secrets, if that makes sense. So I think private is the much better response. Terry, let me know, and Harry, Dad, let me know that makes sense. If that makes sense to you guys as well, and anything you would add, please do so. I know it can be a bit of a challenge leaving stuff in the chat. There is a little bit of a delay sometimes, but keep typing. I'd love to keep talking to you. Going to see if my friend can join. The secrets have been increasingly public since yeah, that's very true. I was saying it's kind of the curse of the internet in some ways, as well as what Sophus has been talking about ancient wisdom. But the internet, a lot of the secrets are on there. The thing is, though, and I always tell this to guys, you can go and research on the internet and you'll find a lot of stuff that's true, but you'll find a lot of stuff that's not true as well, right? And the danger is you're not going to know which is which. So I always recommend to guys when they're applying, I always tell them don't do research, because you might end up in a situation where you don't enjoy. You're either going to know what's going to happen or someone's going to happen and it's going to be less impactful, or you're going to have a false sense of what's going to happen and then you might be disappointed. So don't do that. Don't do that. And Sophus, that all makes sense. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try to explain this stuff. Yeah, that's true. It's always been a small minority who have discernment and the love of wisdom. It's always kind of I think the percentages are always the same. In anything, right? In any organization or in anywhere, I sometimes it's described as the rule of 10%, which might be true as well, right? 10% are active and involved, and 90% aren't. Different levels, same thing in class, right? 5% are the A+ students, the rest are kind of not so much. So I think, but that's a very good point. Those percentages can be a challenge. I see we got a few more likes, which I appreciate. Let me know how it's coming across, audio, visual. We can still keep talking about wisdom in terms of what Freemasonry. Oh, I just got an interesting thing pop up on my phone or my computer, mentioning that Colonel Sanders was a Freemason. I'm sure whatever lodge he was at, they were really happy when he was junior warden. Got a lot of really good food. I love KFC. So Terry, what would you say is the type of wisdom that Freemasonry provides, or do you think Freemasonry provides any wisdom? Because in my experience, there's a lot of wisdom there, but it's kind of individual. Like you say before, right? When you talked about, see if I can find it, the individual versus the group perspective. I just want to go back up and get the exact wording right, because I like the way you said it. I see you wrote something else as well, which I will try to track down. Oh, yeah. Center perspective of a Freemason is a collective, and the perspective of an individual is a solitary journey. Unfortunately, most forget. So, do you think that it's kind of the journey to wisdom is a solitary journey across the board? We do not share or confirm them as individuals. That is the purpose of any obligation in a group. Don't share information that's not yours to share. Why make it more complicated? Yeah, I think that makes sense. Don't share information that is not yours to share. Why make it more complicated? Yeah, no, I agree with that. Although I do think that everybody has different reasons as to why they think the secrets are important, right? If that makes sense. I was describing it, and my dad's still on the podcast, I think, watching. My grandfather on my dad's side passed away before I was born, and so I never got to know him except through him and I were both Freemasons, right? So knowing that the obligation I took is similar to the obligation he took, and the ritual I took part in and experiences what he took part in, it makes me feel kind of close to him, as well as my other grandfather, Papa, on my mom's side. He was also a Mason, and great grandfathers and stuff. So, for me, it's important to keep it a secret for those reasons, more so even than just the obligation I took. Because if everybody knows it, I'm just sharing it, then I feel like it affects that relationship or that connection of anybody can just know it without being a quote unquote Mason. So I think people have different reasons. I've obviously at the core, you say, well, it's you took an obligation, you should honor it, which is true. But I also understand that people may have different reasons why the secrets mean something to them, particularly, or keeping them a secret. Does Masonry teach an idiosyncratic pattern, or does it pertain to perennial wisdom? I mean, both, I think. I mean, by its nature, it's almost anything is idiosyncratic in some way or another. But the hope is there's some perennial wisdom there. You could use football as being the perfect example of it. Like football is teaches idiosyncratic systems, in that, like, the system that you use to be good at football is not the system you use to be good at basketball. They'll make basketball more fun. Is not the system that you would use to be good at baseball, but there's perennial wisdom in that system nonetheless, like the value of hard work, the value of practice, the value of teamwork, or you could say the wisdom, right? The wisdom of practice, the wisdom of teamwork, the wisdom of competition, the wisdom of being physically fit. Like the wisdom is there. The wisdom is there, but it's an idiosyncratic way to get to it. And same thing with basketball. And hopefully, if you enjoy it and you love it, you're able to see past the system. You're able to see the perennial wisdom that is being taught through the idiosyncratic system. So if you love football, yes, you may be doing 2-a-day practices, and you may be exhausted and you may be in pain at the end of it. But because you love it, A, you'll stick with it, and B, you'll see the wisdom underneath the behaviors and the practices and the hard work and the struggle. The Army is another great example of it. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Stripes. It's been a long time since I saw it with Bill Murray, but I love the part where, like, the drill sergeant says to Bill Murray's character, right, you don't see the value in what we're doing here, or whatever it is. And Bill Murray says, I don't see the value in cleaning the floors with a toothbrush. But if he was of a better mindset, and he gets there in the end, right, he would see that there's wisdom being taught through these idiosyncratic military methods, the wisdom of, again, teamwork, the wisdom of attention to detail, the wisdom of dedication, the wisdom of sacrifice. And so Freemasonry is no different. If you love it, you can see it, right? The idiosyncratic patterns and unique qualities of Freemasonry are there, but they communicate perennial wisdom. You just have to care enough to see it. It's always been the way of the wisdom tradition. Students of Pythagoras had to go through initiations and 5 years of teaching before they could look upon his face. I read somewhere that people think Pythagoras may have been a couple different people through the years. Kind of his name got passed around a little bit. But no, there's Chuck Dunning. I don't know if Terry, you ever read him, but Chuck Dunning talks a lot about that type of stuff. The initiatic principles of Freemasonry and kind of connecting to initiatic rites in the past. I agree with each man having different reasons. The common denominator is we all agree not to share with others, not in the group. Yep, Club Scouts do the same thing. Businesses do the same thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Whatever the reasons are, the common denominator, we both made an obligation. So we should obviously try to stick to it as much as we can, I think, for obvious reasons. So sophists, yeah, exactly. Sophists. I think the same is true of many of the ancient philosophers, most of which represent certain mystery cults. Yeah, that they might have been different people at different times, or kind of like, I think I heard the same thing about Euclid, which is a very important Masonic name. Homer, right, the author of the Iliad and the Odyssey, similar thing. There's some discussion about even Shakespeare, right, and that's pretty modern compared to what we're talking about. I've heard debates about whether Shakespeare might have been 2 or 3 people. I hope not, because I really like Shakespeare. So I hope I don't know enough about it. I hope he was the same person the whole time. Much Ado About Nothing, I really like. Okay, so are you one of the? So do you think the real Shakespeare was Francis Bacon? Because I've heard different people be suggested. I'm curious now. Let me see. Him and his literary society. Okay, so I'm going to type into Google right now. Real William Shakespeare. The Shakespeare authorship question is the argument that someone other than William Shakespeare, extrapolated upon Avon, wrote the works attributed to him. Who are the... So Oxford, Bacon, Derby, and Marlowe, clockwise, so I'm looking at this in Wikipedia, have each been proposed as the true author. There you go. I am going to choose to go with... I'm going to choose to go with it was really him for the time being, but I think even some of his stuff, like I think in Macbeth, which I really like, one of my favorite soliloquies of all time is that tomorrow, when I'm in a good mood, it's the end of A Midsummer's Night Dream. And when I'm in a bad mood, I really like that tomorrow soliloquy. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps on this petty pace, right? After he finds Lady Macbeth has passed away. So, but I know in Macbeth, there's been some discussion that there was different like a couple of different authors, because the witch scene, double bubble, toil and trouble, that scene, they feel like it wasn't written in the same style, and so might have been added later. So maybe it was a situation where you had one person writing most of it, but you had other people adding to the work as it goes. It couldn't have been a lowborn, given the knowledge of high society and allusion to real aristocratic figures of the time. Also, Shakespeare was illiterate. Was he illiterate, or did he just memorize a bunch of words? Which is a joke from New Girl, which is a very good sitcom here in old sitcom, but one I really liked. Okay, so that's interesting. So I didn't know that. So, well, then I guess the 4 options are the ones we discussed, right? But you're saying Bacon and his literary society. Do you think that was true for all of his works? I really, like I was saying, I think the best soliloquy, also the extensive knowledge of philosophy and occult, could only have been Bacon. Why was it that he used a pseudonym then? Was there a reason that he didn't want the authorship of the works to be attributed to him? Right. And I do, like I said, whoever wrote tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. All our yesterdays have lighted fools. This way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I really, really like I really like that soliloquy. On my bad days or sad days, that's what I tend to think of. It's a good point. I'm not sure. Like, not sure why he would hide the authorship. Do you think it could be, well, like where did the money go? I know there probably wasn't that much, but back in the day when like Shakespeare was publishing his plays Shakespeare was publishing his plays and performing them at the Globe Theater, was he getting paid for them or was Francis Bacon getting the money for them? Maybe they had some type of deal to split the profits. I know that I don't think Shakespeare ever made that much money from them, relatively speaking, but because I mean, if they were popular enough, you'd think that Francis Bacon would want to take the credit for it right away. Because I mean, some of them were pretty popular in his time, right? I know he grew in popularity, but he was still a fairly well-established playwright back in the day. So, but that's cool. I did not know that. Let me just go back and look up. Okay, so here's some. The most popular being Sir Francis Bacon, Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford, Christopher Marlowe, William Stanley, 6th Earl of Derby. Bacon had a whole team behind him. It could have been that they employed Shakespeare to hide their identity because many of the plays make fun out of real-life high society and figures of the time. Could be. What's your favorite Shakespeare play? Sounds like you know probably way more than I do. So let me know maybe if you have any ideas as to, or if you have any favorite plays or favorite soliloquies or favorite parts of Shakespeare. There was like a movie based on this, right? Oh, Anonymous. I think that was the movie about whether or not Shakespeare was real. When was Shakespeare even alive? Could Shakespeare have been a Mason? I don't think so, right? He was in the 15th century. Yeah, 1564 to 1616. I didn't know that off the top of my head. I got my Google out. So he could not have been a Freemason himself. Although there were some speculative lodges in Scotland at the time, or speculative Masons at the time. So anything's possible. He let's see. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe his dad was like some involved in Freemasonry, but he wasn't. His dad was an alderman and successful glove maker. So there you go. And apparently his spouse was named Anne Hathaway. I'm guessing that's where maybe the famous actress of today got that. That's kind of cool. So this has become the Did Shakespeare write his own plays chat, which I am very much enjoying. But I'm also happy to talk about anything you guys want to talk about, particularly as it relates to Freemasonry. Throw something down in the chat. Let me know how you guys are doing and what you want to talk about. If you're new and you're just checking this out, please take a moment, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps this get out to more people. Let me know even how you found this. Did you find this just in scrolling? Did you find it on social media? Did I send you a message? How did you find this live stream? I'd really appreciate knowing because that helps other people. That helps me know where to send this out and where to help other people find it. Go back out through our chat and let me know what you think of it and if there's any ideas that you have or anything you want to talk about in the chat. Like I said, the focus is on Freemasonry, but that doesn't mean there can't be a lot of other things we want to talk about. We've talked about Masonic membership retention. These are all the different live streams we've had. We've talked about the mysteries and occult and esotericism, and why it's important that Freemasonry remain quote unquote private or secret, or pick your terms. We talked about our favorite Masonic books. We've talked about Grand Lodge annual communications and having them travel to different locations and why it could work or couldn't work. We've talked about the idea of wisdom and what wisdom is, and the extent to which Freemasonry can maybe help people gather wisdom. We've even talked about William Shakespeare and whether he was the Shakespeare authorship question, and whether he was in fact responsible for his works. You can see from the chat, Sophis saying Bacon had a whole team behind him. It could have been they employed Shakespeare to hide their identity because many of the plays make fun out of real high society figures of the time. That's probably also the why he was so popular, right? Because when you're making fun of, like, look at modern satire, right? Making fun of what's the word? Making fun of politicians and high society figures in any time will probably make you popular amongst the audience, but maybe not so popular amongst those actual high society members. But even that goes back to ancient Greece, right? Like the writer during the time of Pericles, what was his name? Or not Pericles, the Greek was it Pericles? Now it's going to drive me crazy. Yeah, Pericles. He had an author in ancient Greece who kind of was famous for making fun of him. Pericles, author, satire. You know this. I feel like, Sophis, you might know this based on our conversations. He's an ancient Greek writer. Aristophanes. That's the guy who wrote the satires and kind of made fun of Pericles. I don't think it ended well for him. If I recall correctly, wasn't he put to death? I'm looking. In school, I took classics, so now it gives me the chance to like check this out. By all means, though, please, if you're joining us, take a few minutes, like, subscribe, but put something in the chat. More importantly, let us know what you want to talk about, what you want to hear, because I'd love to keep chatting with you guys and learning more about what you want to talk about. We're here talking particularly about Freemasonry. You can see in the group chat what we've talked about, but that doesn't mean, we're happy to talk about anything. We had brothers here. I don't know if they're still here, but if you're still here from Mississippi, Romania, Michigan, Ontario, Manitoba, please throw something down in the chat. Let me know you're still here. If you're new joining us, say hi in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. That to me is the best part about these live streams, getting the chance to talk to people and learn more about what they want to talk about. So, right, Aristophanes, the father of comedy, the prince of comedy. Let's see. Still here, don't worry. I thought he was put to death, but I think I might be wrong. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, it was so Cleon also that he, ancient Greek leadership. And then he referred to Aristophanes in the cloud. Aristophanes, I think is how you say it. For example, it doesn't say here how he passed away. Well, I'll see if I can find it later. Thank you guys, everybody still who's joining us here. Like I said, keep on throwing stuff in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. Yesterday, we had a really fun and really long conversation about paranormal investigations in Freemasonry, which has been a blast. So maybe you can talk about that, throw that in the chat. If you're not a Mason, you're still welcome, and it'd still be great to chat with you about what you know about Freemasonry, what you want to know about Freemasonry, any questions that you have. That would be awesome as well. I love the chance to talk to, talk to people who are interested in Freemasonry. But let me know where you're from and what you want to talk about. Let me know if the audio is coming through as well and the video is coming through as well, and any concerns there. I'm trying to get better at I'm definitely trying to get better at this stuff. The audio and the video side of podcast producing, which I'm not an expert at by any means, but I do want to get better at it. It's been great to see people kind of joining the chat as we go. And it's great to see people sticking around for so long in the chat as well and in the watching it. On Sunday, if you get the chance, at 6 p.m. Eastern. So much later maybe for our guys in Romania. So I apologize for that. We have our next episode being released featuring Peter Cialtzis of the Grand Lodge of Canada in the province of Ontario. He is a member of the Board of General Purposes. Terry, if you're still around, do you have anything similar in Mississippi to what's called a Board of General Purposes? That's a governing body, kind of elected and appointed, and they are responsible for administering different initiatives of the Grand Lodge. So it could be initiatives related to building management or initiatives related to social media or websites. So I'm Dad as well. I know that you're very worshipful, but if you're still watching this, do you have any similar bodies in Manitoba to what we call the Board of General Purposes? If you do, let me know in the chat what it is and what you know about it. And anybody who's just tuning in for the first time, please take a moment, leave a like, but also let me know in the chat what's going on. Harry, I don't know anything about Shakespeare. Well, I've been learning more about him lately, so that's been good. I've been learning more about him in this chat, so hopefully we managed to get you guys some education on this. Sophis, heading out to see some friends now. Great conversation. I will stop by again. Sorry to take over the chat a little bit at times. All the best to you. No, not at all. You did not take over the chat. I appreciated you being here, and please stick around go see your friends. Sorry, go see your friends. But I'm going to try to do this. Maybe even I'll do it tomorrow. I got to go to Leamington tomorrow for a special event or a special meeting, but I will see if I can't get back in time. See if I can't maybe live stream from Leamington, Ontario. Beautiful Leamington. Terry McLeod, I apologize. I had to step away to take. No, not at all. We're happy for you to be here when you can, and when you got to take a phone call, by all means, take your phone call. Having said that, if you want to go back and check out the live stream or check out the chat replay, you can check out what we were talking about. I don't know if you have anything to add on those topics. I don't know if you heard me asking, but one thing, Terry, just out of curiosity, is do you know if the Grand Lodge of Mississippi has what's called or something equivalent to what we have in Ontario, which is called the Board of General Purposes, which is, we enjoyed it as well, Terry. Thank you so much. The Board of General Purposes being a board that kind of governs different initiatives of the Grand Lodge, like social media or in-person meetings or ritual or social events or cornerstone designations. We here call it the Board of General Purposes. Let me know what you guys call it over there. If you have something in Mississippi, thanks for the tip on the. Yeah, no, I'm happy to provide any information that I can. You can check out our past episodes. We record them. I'm going to leave it probably. Once we're done with this one, I'm going to switch it over, leave it on. I can't think of what the word is. Put it on private for a bit, maybe edit it, and then release it back to the public. No, thank you for being here. And if you can answer my questions regarding the Board of General Purposes, by all means. But if you got to run, that's no problem as well. But maybe even come back and check later, because I might still be around after when you're free again. I've got a bit of time, and I really enjoy these. We have thank you. We have a 10-year planning committee for strategic planning and a board of custodians for ritual work. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so similar idea, but I'm guessing maybe instead of having a board of general purposes, you have like different committees that deal with things like the website or the membership retention or cornerstone designations or anything like that, is my assumption. So 10-year planning committee, or like a webmaster, because I know Mississippi has a Grand Lodge website and has, I think, social media, right? Do you guys have Twitter account or X accounts, it's called now, or Facebook? I believe I'm following something, but hopefully I can follow some more of your Freemasonry in Mississippi, because that would be 100% on my list. Like I said, how hot is? And again, if you had to run, by all means, don't stick around on my account. But just out of curiosity, yes, multiples of committees. You type that like somebody who maybe has been on a few yourself over the years. I don't know if you have been or not, but I've had the pleasure of being on 2 Grand Lodge committees. I was on. Okay, yes. So yeah, I think I follow Mississippi on Facebook. I myself have been on 2 Grand Lodge committees, the social media committee and the Cornerstone committee. Cornerstone is a designation. So if you're a lodge in Ontario and you achieve certain standards, those standards include things like number of degrees you perform, increasing your lodge attendance, social events, education, attending Grand Lodge. Like if you achieve certain standards within a 2-year period, you're eligible for what's called a cornerstone designation. And that just means that you've exemplified you've met the standards as set out by Grand Lodge, and you get a certificate, and you can say that you're a cornerstone lodge in your summons. And so it's a great initiative. I'm actually the cornerstone chairman for our local committee for my local district as well. I don't know if maybe Mississippi has anything similar. A lot of districts have like awards, and jurisdictions have awards for individuals, Meritorious Service Awards, Mercer Wilson Award, Hiram Award in California. So yeah, there is a Board of General Purposes in Manitoba, which governs the working of Grand Lodge. Also, next week, my lodge has a general purpose meeting after our summer recess. Okay, cool. That'll be fun, I'm sure. It'll be nice to get back into it a little bit. I remember visiting your lodge for their family day, which I really enjoyed. Are you still going to pick up the brothers and give them a ride to the meetings? 'Cause I'm sure that's very much appreciated. We got some new people jumping on the chat and off the chat. So if you're jumping on the chat, let us know what you want to talk about. It can be anything you want. We just finished talking about Shakespeare. Now we're back to talking about, for Freemasonry, the Board of General Purposes. This is a fun chance to kind of converse with each other. And I'm happy to keep the conversation going as long as people might be watching. Though pretty soon I am going to have to take a bit of a break because I have to go to the washroom soon. But I'll give people a few more minutes. Maybe Board of General Purpose is more like a Canadian type thing, an English type thing. Maybe, like Terry was saying, different things in different necks of the wood. Necks of the wood, which is the right way you'd say it. Let us know, like I said, in the chat, what do you want to talk about? We still got plenty of time. I have to send out some correspondence this afternoon. And like I said, tomorrow I'm actually going to be in Leamington for our trestle board meeting, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow, slowly getting back into Freemasonry. Just takes time. And maybe what I'll do is I'll try to do a live stream in the morning, maybe around like 10 o'clock, actually from Leamington. So people can get the people who have never maybe been here before can actually see Leamington and see what it is and see a very cool town. I'm actually very fond. I haven't been there for a while. It's been, oh my God. It's been years. You know, it's funny, Leamington is closer to me, but I'm in Chicago and places like that way more than I am in Leamington. So goes to show you, sometimes you don't appreciate what's in your own backyard. That would sound like a weird S. I think I had to work on my microphone or my talking skills. As I'm always saying, let me know in here if you want to talk about anything related to Freemasonry. Now is your chance. This is a great chance to have a chat and talk with each other. We have Masons here from Manitoba, from Mississippi. We had some brothers from Romania, Manitoba, Ontario, and then we even had a gentleman from England who wasn't a Mason but had a lot of really good questions about it. So that was really special. Just figuring out the best way to make it to Leamington tomorrow. The bus leaves early, but it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Yes, I'm the driver. I will be leaving soon as I will be driving people to the Transcona Legion for the usual Friday afternoon happy hour. They're keeping you busy there, Dad. That's for sure. But good. Tell everybody I say hi. Whoever it is that's there, can all have a drink for me. Just soda pop, though. Just stick to soda pop. How will we learn of another time? If you are subscribed, Terry, then hopefully you should see whenever I do it, you should get a notification. I believe right now my plan is to host another one tomorrow at maybe 11 a.m. Eastern, just for a couple hours before we have a meeting in Leamington. So That's the plan right now, I think. But if you're subscribed, also, if you want to get in touch with me through email, hold on just one sec. info@squareandcompass.ca. You see my email there. Get in touch with me by email. I can add you to my email list because I do send out correspondence pretty regularly. And yeah, we can go from there. But as long as you set your notifications on, and we're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/squarecompassessex. We're on LinkedIn. I'm actually going to see, maybe I can find you on the Facebook right now, just so I can send you a friend request, and that way I can also send you messages. But I'm glad it sounds like you've been enjoying this, which I really appreciate you joining. Thank you to Michael Moore for taking the time to share this on the social media sites. That was much appreciated. Oh, looks like I think I may have found you. That came out creepier than I meant it to. Or no, maybe I found, well, nonetheless, I'm going to add as a friend because we got 14 mutual friends. So yeah, I don't actively do Facebook. I get an email from time to time from you now with different events. I don't actually do Facebook. I'm a lurker. Ha. Okay, yeah. So get the email. That's good. Hopefully, we'll keep you informed that way. Yeah, I don't send out the emails nearly as much as I used to. I tend now to just do more social media posts, but I'll probably send one out on on Sunday with more information about what's happening and my interview with Peter Cialsis. So hopefully you get that, and let me know if you enjoy the emails or if there's anything that you want to see different about them or any ways I can improve them. I'm always interested in getting more feedback. We've had a lot of people come and go, which has been excellent. Jumping in and out of the chat. So keep it going. Anything you want to chat about, that would be awesome. Leave a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff. I don't know if it's Michelle is there or if my pops is still there or if he's had to leave now to go to the Transcona Legion for happy hour. We got a few people watching still, so please throw something down in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. It's been great. We've had a really good turnout of guys at the start and a really good conversation, and I'm hoping that we can keep it going. And let me know how you found us as well. That's a really important part of it. That way I know where I can find, where to actively kind of send my stuff. I enjoy your perspective, so I came here today. You do a great job representing free. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is very kind of you to say, and I've had a great time conversing with you as well. So please stick around. Or I know you said you had to run, but please keep checking back and keep on sharing the information and also commenting on it as well. That would be much appreciated as well. And hopefully one day we'll see you here in Windsor. And I definitely plan one day to make it to Mississippi. Despite maybe not in summer, because I don't do well in heat. And here it's very, very warm in Mississippi. And I do not like the heat at all. So I may wait and try to come in winter when hopefully it's a little bit cooler. One thing I actually love, though, is, because I'm a big nerd at heart, Hallmark Christmas movies. And I think there was there was a movie called Christmas in Mississippi. I'm going to share this stream right now. Share the screen, I should say. Christmas in Mississippi, starring Jana Kramer, who is a very, very attractive lady. I like this movie. So maybe I'll try one day to do a actual Christmas in Mississippi. Who knows? I'm going to stop sharing. I try to do Facebook and podcasts to get out of my echo chamber and hear other perspective on issues, which is a really good thing, right? For Freemasonry and for anything else, is hearing different perspectives is really important and can help people grow more within the craft and with whatever it is, right? If you're only getting one perspective on Freemasonry, how much can you grow in it, right? And that doesn't mean you accept every perspective, but hopefully you at least hear them and you get some good ideas from it as well, right? I mean, my philosophy is one example I heard that I always really liked was I used to work as a probation officer and then in a jail working with we call them clients, can call them inmates or criminals or pick your term. But I ran different educational sessions for them on things like anger management, getting a job, resume building, whatever it might be. And when it came to talking about getting a job, when I was taking the training to give the course, we talked about how like take every perspective and try to find the potential benefit of it, or the try to figure out with that perspective how you can spin it into something positive. So for example, if I were to ask somebody, what could you do to get a job? And if they were to respond, move to Mars, right? Well, then what you can do is you still go, okay, and you write move to Mars on the whiteboard, because then hopefully somebody will see that and go, or I could just, move to the next town over where there's more jobs or the better economy, or apply via email to places further away. So you get that. So even if the idea at first or the initial perspective seems kind of crazy to you, there may be some value in it and it may be worth exploring. And I think that's true of Freemasonry as well, right? There's probably even if the idea seems kind of crazy to you, there's probably something worth exploring there, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion on not getting into the echo chamber and exploring different opinions. We've had a great turnout so far. If you're brand new to this, please leave a comment in the chat. Let me know what's going on, what you want to talk about. To get ideas, you can go through our chat so far and see what we have been talking about. I may have to run to the washroom in a second, and when I do that, I always leave my friend here. He still doesn't have a name, so if you guys want to name him in the chat while I go take a few minutes to go to the washroom, maybe we can do that. And then when we come back, we can talk more about Freemasonry. We've been talking about Shakespeare. It's been a lot of fun. I'm happy you guys are finding this on your streams as well. That's probably a good sign for this podcast. Well spoken. We learned that in the Preston Webb ritual. Yep. The need to travel literally and figuratively has a value. It has a huge value in Freemasonry and otherwise. It has an absolutely huge value. I think I pretty much always, when it comes to pieces of advice to Freemasons, newer Freemasons, the need to travel is up there as maybe the highest. Beyond support your lodge, number 2 might be that. Speaking of, Terry, if you're still there, before you run, you mentioned the Preston Webb ritual. I don't know how far you might be from Lexington, Kentucky, but the Rubicon Society is having a festive board and conference. The theme of which is Shapers of the Ritual, and it's being held the 28th and the 20, or it's being held September 27th and 28th in Lexington, Kentucky. If you attend both the festive board on the 27th and the conference on the 28th, it's 175 US. And yeah, it's all about shapers of our ritual, and the two ones that they're going to focus and have presentations on 4 ritual shapers. The first 2 being Preston and then Webb, for obvious reasons when it comes to our ritual. And I can't think now of the other 2. The presentations will be done by some very distinguished Masons as well, such as John Bizak, who's written some pretty amazing things. So yeah, we did a podcast. When did we do it? About 2 weeks ago, talking about that. So I'm hoping that guys will check it out. Do you plan to go, Terry? Do you know if you're planning on attending or not? But I agree, it's going to be great. And Rubicon tends to share these things on social media as well. So hopefully you can check that out as well, because I think it's going to be, if not in person, you can see the video and the audio. You can see their presentations that they put online. They did it with last year's, which was amazing. I absolutely loved my time there last year in Lexington, Kentucky at Spindletop Hall. It was pretty incredible. So everybody who's watching this, maybe, if you get the chance, go to that conference, because it's going to be pretty special. It always seems like with these live streams that at the start of them, they tend to get a really good turnout, and then they kind of go down as time goes on and then back up again. So I may, in a couple of minutes, like I was saying, take a break. Terry, thank you again for sticking around. I know you said you had to run, so whenever you do, by all means. Let me know. And anybody else watching this, let me know what's going on, what you want to talk about. Well, it says here, I enjoyed this opportunity to chat with you guys. So maybe you are sticking around, Terry, which is great. Love to keep hearing from you and keep the chat going. Tentatively, no, I have a conflict. Oh, that's too bad. But at least, like we were saying, you'll get to see it online when they post it. Rubicon Society is really, really good about posting all their stuff online. So hopefully you will be able to see it when it comes out that way. I think Rubicon is one of the best groups when it comes to making sure their stuff gets posted online. And thank you, everybody, for got some great watch time on this podcast, on this live stream, which I really appreciate. People sticking around. But Terry, if you're still, yes, I agree. Rubicon Society does do a wonderful job. I've had them on the podcast, my podcast, a few times now. I know actually some of the guests that I've had on, they either had on before me or after me. So that was really special as well, that they joined, or that we were able to take advice from each other or get ideas for guests from each other. I'm leaving now to attend to another job. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed having you. And I'll let you know, like I said, just keep track to notifications. There'll be another one soon. Maybe even tomorrow, because we're enjoying these so much as well. All right. Well, since Terry's stepping away, guys, for a few minutes, I'm going to be stepping away as well. I'm not going to stop the stream. I'm going to put my guy here because I'm only going to be gone for like 30 seconds. I just got to run to the washroom and grab a drink, and I'll be back. So if you do jump on while I'm not here, put something in the chat. Let me know that you're here and what you want to talk about, and I'll be back soon. And if you can, try to give this guy a name.